Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a very special little spotted cat. So we've come all the way down to Cheetah Plains, and that's why it's taken us a little bit of time to get going. We've also had a few little technical issues, and so my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Craig with me, and we have come, like I say, to Cheetah Plains in search of different spotted cats, but we ultimately got this one, which is great. Now, I'm not 100% sure who it is exactly. The leopards of this particular area I haven't seen too much, but I think it's either Nkanyeni or her son Vatumi, but I can't see 100%. We've just come across her on the termite mound, and so difficult to see who it is exactly. So the viewers out there that are very good with the ID kits of these leopards maybe can point us in the right direction as to who this is, but I'm going to hedge my bet on Nkanyeni. It would be the right sort of area for her. We're right up on the eastern side of Cheetah Plains, and she likes to spend a bit of time here, so that's who I think it is. I might be wrong, but the ears are very large, and so are the paws, which makes me think that it might be a young male. Like I say, it's very difficult to see its back end at the moment because it's tucked in the grass, but you can see very large paws there, and then very big ears that it seems like it hasn't grown into just yet. So there we go. And isn't that absolutely spectacular? Perfectly posing on this mound. Now, I believe she was drinking, or he was drinking, at a little pan close by, and has now come up onto this mound. And as we were coming in, there was actually a male impala that was coming down to the same pan. So from that elevation there, I'm pretty sure this leopard will be able to see very clearly what's going on, and be able to then see that impala and potentially then hunt. The amazing thing is that the area that we're in at the moment is that if this leopard comes down and into the grass, it's going to just disappear. The grass is so long that this cat will be able to get out of here without anybody even knowing or seeing, and so it's the perfect place to watch these pans behind us and these little water systems. And as the impalas or varying animals come to drink, it can use this thicket on the edge of the pan to then stalk up close to be able to then hunt. You can see it's looking around quite a bit to see what's going on. I wonder if there's maybe not something moving behind there. So I can't see what she's watching. So it could be, like I say, there's something moving in the grass. The grass is so long it potentially could be something like a warthog, and we would never even be able to see it. Sorry, one of our aerials just caught on a branch, so she got a bit of a fright there. Do apologize. But you can see not phased too much. She hasn't really turned around, still fixated on whatever's rustling in the grass behind her. Now, today, because of the conditions that we've got these overcast, grey, cloudy conditions, and it is the perfect conditions for a leopard to be moving around. You'll often find them in these conditions active during the day. They'll spend even the hottest part of the day moving around. It's quite dreary and grey, and so it's very difficult actually to make out shapes in this, and so for them it's cool enough to move around, as well as the fact that it's dark enough that the other animals don't see them nearly as well as they would if it was very sunny. Roger and Liz, I think I would agree with you. It looks like a young male to me as well, so it looks like it's got big ears and big paws, so Vatumi would be my guess as well. But let's see, I'm hoping it's going to come down the mound and I'll be able to see clearly, but it does look like him. It's definitely quite a bulky head, and so that would be my guess as well, one of the two of those. Now, I know that Thandi's other cub, Kuchava, spends a bit of time here, but that is a little smaller than this, as a female, so I'm pretty sure this is Vatumi. Now, I wonder where Nkanyeni would be. I know she's been hanging around with him, so hopefully she's somewhere here too. Maybe that's what he's been looking at over his shoulder. It wouldn't be nice if the two of them were together, so I'll definitely stick around here for a little bit of time and see what happens and see what this little cat gets up to. And while we do that, I believe Taylor's got a little jumping frog. So we're still sitting here with this leopard, and he's very alert. You can see looking around all over the place. There's some birds that have been calling. There was a couple little quails that were calling just now, and that's maybe what was moving around in the grass and got his attention. No sign of his mom in any of these areas that I can see, but like I say, with the grass being as long as it is, it's very possible that she could be lying somewhere close by and couldn't be hidden from us and we won't be able to see her just yet. I would expect, though, if the mom was here, that he would be then going up towards her and trying to get her to move around or just to play around. Young leopards often have that playful nature, and particularly weather like this, they're often all over the place when mom is around. So in all likelihood, mom has left him to go and hunt, and she's going to be off looking for food and has left him in this area. And he's got the perfect place. He's got, like I say, a bit of water that we were talking about earlier. There's protection with long grass, termite mounds, and lots of thickets around here. And if anything does come, he's getting to that age where he's going to start hunting. So, Vade, who is a new viewer, welcome Vade. I hope you are enjoying your live safari. Sorry, Zaid, sorry. We are on the far-flung corners of the Traverse area, and so a little bit difficult to hear names. But Zaid, I hope you are enjoying your live safari, and you want to know when will the cubs leave their mother. Well, it's dependent on the mom. Some mothers are a little bit more tolerable than others, and it also depends on males and females. Generally, what you will find is that the male cubs tend to stay a lot longer with the females. They tend to be mommy's boys and hold on for as long as possible. I think they know that they get a lot of food out of mom, and everything is a lot easier when mom is around. So they'll normally stay until about 2 years old, whereas the females can be ejected as early as 14 to 16 months. So it does depend. I have seen females that have stayed later towards 2, but generally it's the males that will stay that way until that age. And you'll find what happens is the female will then start to come into an estrous cycle anywhere between that 14-month and 2-year period. And when that happens, she starts to mate. And once she starts to mate, she then will have that instinct that she now needs to break away because she needs to find a safe place to have the cubs. And ultimately, these older leopards are now big enough and strong enough to look after themselves. And she then lets them go, and they'll then go off on their own and try and find their own area to dominate. If it's a female, then generally they stay quite close to the mother's natal territory, but if it's a male, they can often end up being very far away, as they'll have to travel all these little areas to go past other males that are dominant at the time until they can find an area that they're strong enough to either overthrow the existing male or where there is a vacancy and no male that's there. Now, it has just started to rain a little bit, so it's going to be interesting to see what this cat does. Generally, cats are not huge fans of the rain, and so often you'll find when it starts to rain a little bit that the cats will try and find an area that they can go and get under a thicket and get out of the rain. So we'll just see what he does. I wouldn't be surprised he actually gets up and moves now. Rain's not going to come down too hard. Like I say, we are quite far from home, so it doesn't look like it's going to be too bad though. It looks like we've got a few kind of grey clouds that might just come past, and it should hopefully clear up quite quickly and we won't get too much. But isn't he spectacular? Look at that face, he's got the most beautiful eyes. Now this is the first time that I've actually seen Vutumi. I've tried many times to see him, but unfortunately he always kept eluding me, so I've seen a lot of photographs of him, but never actually seen him in the flesh, and he's a beautiful little leopard. It's going to be a big boy, much like Hosana. He's got really big feet and a big head and big ears that he's still going to grow into. The interesting thing is, though, is that this little male is about 5 months older than Hosana, and Hosana is probably bigger than he is. So it just shows you how big Hosana is going to be. Now, for those of you that don't know who Hosana is one of our little princes. So he's part of the royal families, which is a group of leopards that we see quite regularly on Djuma, Karula, and then her 2 cubs, Shongila and Hosana. And so Hosana is the little boy from that. Alright, so we're going to just put some covers on our cameras and keep everything dry, and while we do that, we're going to go across to Brent and see what update he's got for us. Indeed, there's no better way to finish the day, Taylor. A leopard on Sunset Drive. It's beautiful conditions and it's posing absolutely perfectly for us. So still sitting on top of his termite mound, and he is a really pretty little cat. He's got beautiful striking look about him, very interesting coloured eyes with this really nice big ears that he's still going to grow into. So he will be a very good looking male when he's a little bit older. Now, he's had a bit of a tough time. He's had a few different males that have chased him around a little bit. I know he's had quite a few run-ins with quarantine, which is from Karula's lineage. So he's been seen around this little one a few times, and they've been chasing each other around. So it's getting to that point where that quarantine is now starting to see this young male as a potential threat. So the rain stopped and we put all our covers on, and we thought it was for nothing, but it's now starting to get a little bit harder again. So it's going to be interesting to see if he's actually going to stand up. He seems not to be too fazed by it. You can see he's kind of still holding his head up, his eyes are open. Often when it really starts to rain, you find the ears are going to flatten, and they're going to squint their eyes a little bit so that the water doesn't get in their eyes, and then they'll come down and find a thicket. And last week we had the lions doing it. It was quite entertaining. So there we go, James. So James has checked all the spot patterns, and he says that it's Kuchava, which I was talking about earlier. So it's Thandi's older daughter her most recent daughter that has left her. So it is actually a female, but it's got a very male-like look to it. It's got very big ears and big paws, so a little bit confusing. And like I say, the way it's lying on this mound is quite difficult. Now, I've never seen Kuchava either, so it'll be a first for me either way. But it's a beautiful leopard, I can tell you that much. So if it's a female, then she's quite big. It's a little bit bigger than what even her mom is. Her mom is quite a small leopard, and this female is, like I say, it's got very masculine features to it. It's got quite a bulky head and big ears and big paws. But I would imagine that Kuchava could be her. It is in the right area as well. Thandi used to be in this particular area as well. So let's see. We'll definitely get a perfect view now, hopefully, if it turns around. It is a female, so must be Kuchava then. Well done, James. That's the advantage that we have of having viewers that can match the spot patterns and give us the identities of these leopards. Now, this was the only female, or the only part of Thandi's lineage that I hadn't seen. I had seen her original male, Wabayiza, who unfortunately was killed by the sticks, and I've seen her most current litter, but I've never seen this particular female, so I've now seen the whole of Thandi's lineage, which is great. She's actually my favorite female, so it's very, very nice to see her. Now, if we just sit quietly, you'll actually hear the pitter-patter of the rain falling. And isn't that amazing? So this rain falling, you can hear for us it starts to make quite a bit of noise. Now you would imagine for any antelope or any potential prey animal, this rain is going to start making a lot of noise, and it's going to be much harder to be able to hear predators coming, because often things like kudu, nyala, bushbuck, because of the loud they leave these thickets, they have really big ears to be able to hear what's going on. So when it rains like this, it falls right into the predator's hands for hunting, because it becomes quite noisy out here, and so the prey animals are not sure what's going on. Also, the wind tends to swirl a little bit, so scent is mixed around, and the rain itself will deaden the scent of this leopard. It will make it much harder for those prey animals to smell them. So these are perfect conditions, and the darker it gets, because tonight is going to be very dark once the sun sets, the better it will be, and this leopard, I'm sure, will start to look for hunting. When she stood up there, you could see she was actually quite slim, so I'm sure she's going to be looking for a meal, and I would imagine that this is going to be the perfect place for her to spend time waiting. Where she is now, with these pan systems that we have here, it really is a great place. So Alex, who's 14 years old, wants to know if the termites irritate these leopards while they're lying on the mounds. Well, Alex, on a mound like this, in all likelihood, this termite mound is no longer active. So there's no longer any termites inside there. There is no evidence of any new building on this termite mound. And so in all likelihood, no termites here, and that's why this leopard can lie on it. But let's say it was an active termite mound. Generally, the termites are not too worried about a leopard be lying on top, because they know that the structure is built very, very well and will be able to support the weight of a leopard. They also know that a leopard's not going to start scratching and opening up the termite mound to try and expose the termites for food. So the only time a leopard will eat termites is when the termites are actually hatching. So that's when you've got your winged allets, is what they're called, and they come out of the termite mound in the hundreds of thousands, and then it's very easy for the leopard just to lap them up. But they won't won't actively go and claw at a termite mound to open it up for the termites itself. And so the termites know if they're just inside, then there's no need to worry at all. They don't have to be too phased by this cat lying on top. At the end of the day, the cat's not doing any damage, and ultimately it's going to keep away other predators of termites. So things like birds, it's going to keep away aardvarks, pangolins, mongoose. So actually having a leopard sitting on top of your mound is not the worst thing in the world. So you can see the leopard is just listening to that bird calling in the distance. It's a blacksmith lapwing, which is a bird that often frequents watery areas and spends their time on the edges of the water. And so that bird just took off and flew and made a bit of a noise. And so this leopard just turned around just to see, because often those birds will call if there's a disturbance from a predator. So sometimes they'll turn around just to see what's going on. But you can see now that the rain started to fall, how she's now tucking herself up. So she's getting her head down and just kind of covering up a little bit, getting those ears facing down so that the rain's not falling inside her ear or into her eyes. And she's going to make herself as small as possible. And if the rain starts to get heavier, then I'd be very surprised if she stayed on top of that mound. In all likelihood, she'll come down and go into some sort of a thicket that we have close by. Lots of very well vegetated areas around us, perfect for a leopard to go and lie in a rainy afternoon. R and W, you are wondering what is the difference between a leopard and a cheetah. Well, there's quite a few differences between them. Luckily we see both of them here, and this afternoon we actually came looking for a cheetah, so we're still going to continue that mission a little bit later and see if maybe we can go down to a big open section and maybe we'll get lucky with a cheetah, and then it'll be very obvious to you. But while we're sitting here with the leopard, I can explain a little bit about the leopard. And the leopard, you'll see, has the first and most obvious is the spot pattern of this animal. If you have a look, you have little black spots that look like they've exploded outwards with an orangey center. So they're called rosettes. A cheetah does not have that. A cheetah has a solid spot. It looks like a little polka dot on its coat. And so that is the major easy difference to see between them if an animal was just curled up like this. The other thing with the cheetah is that it's a lot more slender and taller. It has a much smaller head than what the leopard does. It also has these little black lines that come down its cheeks and around its mouth, whereas the leopard doesn't have that. The leopard will have white underneath the eyes, and unfortunately this leopard is now tucked up, so I can't show you that, but just now when it puts its head up we'll have a look at it. And then the leopard's body is a lot stouter. It's got a much shorter tail that is rounded at the end and not flattened at the end like a cheetah will have. Also, you would very seldom find a cheetah in thick bush areas like this. This is more leopard habitat. So leopards tend to occupy a very wide array of biological systems. So grassland, deserts, mountains, riverine thickets, whereas a cheetah tends to like more open clearings. And the reason why is because a cheetah, given that it's so fast, has unfortunately given a lot of its So not much has changed. She's still curled up in a tight little ball on top of her termite mound. You can just see in the background there with the leaves blowing, a bit of a breeze has picked up now as well. And so she's just tucking up and trying to stay nice and warm. The breeze is actually quite cool. But while you were away, we did a quick turn past Cheetah Plains open area. We went to go and see if there was any sign of the cheetah brothers that frequent that part of the world and who were seen this morning in distance right in the south of that open area, and unfortunately there was nothing there. We scanned around and there was no sign of any cheetah. There was only Norm looking very comfortable with life, so in all likelihood no cheetah that are there still now. I would imagine they've probably headed either further south or maybe they've crossed into the Kruger Park. I didn't see any tracks on the boundary for them, so nothing that we could pick up, which is fine. And so we decided then we'd come back to this little girl and see what she's busy doing. And like I say, not much has changed. It's pretty much the way that we left her. I can tell you now, on weather like this, it is perfect bed weather, so it makes sense to be curled up in a ball. And if you're a leopard, you have your own blanket covering you, so not the worst idea, that's for sure. If I was a leopard, I think that's what I would be doing too. She also knows that, as we were discussing earlier, that the conditions are going to favor her later. So as it starts to get gloomy and dark, so it becomes easier and easier for her to hunt. And I'm sure she's going to be hoping that this evening the clouds stay low and a bit of rain starts. So, Daniel, I feel for you, because Daniel's asking, is it common to see big cats when you visit the national park? Because he's been 3 times and has yet to see a big cat in the park. Now, I'm not sure which park you've been to, Daniel. Maybe you can let us know. But it can be common. There's times... so it's Kruger National Park. Well, Daniel, I can tell you I've been to the Kruger National Park many, many times in my life, and I've spent a lot of time driving around the Kruger National Park, and often don't see any cats at all. But there are days when you go into the Kruger National Park and cats will seem to drop from the trees, and they'll just be everywhere. So it's just a bit of timing and luck. In these kind of areas where we are now, it's a little bit different because we can track and we can off-road, and so this particular leopard that we're watching now is easier for us to find because we can drive in here and see her. If I had to stay where the road was, there's no ways that you would see her. You might just see a little tip of her ear, and to spot that would be incredibly difficult. So in all likelihood, Daniel, you've unfortunately probably driven past quite a few of these cats, and you're just going to have to keep at it. The more time you spend out there, the more luck you will get, and hopefully you will get to see your big cats. I'm not sure what part of Kruger National Park you visited. There's also certain sections that are better for certain cats. So the central areas around Satara and Olifants, really good for lions and cheetah. And then if you come towards the river system, so the Sabi River that runs between Skukuza and Lower Sabi in the Kruger National Park, it's got one of the highest densities of leopard in the world. They believe there's a female leopard per square kilometer on that riverbank, so lots of leopard in that area, also really good lions. And if you go there in the winter months, if you go there in June, July, August, September, those river sections can be really productive, because as it dries out, all of those buffalo start pulling down to these river systems, which then drags in a lot of the lions, and then you'll find also a lot of bushbuck and impalas along the river edges too, which the leopards really like. So really good sightings around the waterways in the winter months. And then if you're further north in the park, if you go up towards Shingwetsi, that area, there's 2 beautiful roads around Shingwetsi. There's one called Red Rocks Road and the other one that goes down to Cunnydirt Height, and both of those are really good for leopards. I've seen leopards a few times there. And you can use Impongolo Loop for big cats, for leopard and lions. So it just depends, Daniel. I'm sorry that you haven't had any luck yet, but I'm sure if you keep giving it a go, eventually you'll be rewarded with a spectacular sighting. It's often the way it goes. Sometimes you have to spend a bit of time out there and you get a bit frustrated, but then when you just relax a little bit and you get into the park and spend time, sometimes nature rewards you for being patient and you get an incredible sighting. So I hope that you do get a great sighting and you get to see all your big cats on your next trip. Like I say, it's a big park and it's a lot of space there, so it can be a little bit difficult. But if you follow a couple of the social media groups, there's a latest sightings Kruger, which can help you just to plan your trip a little bit better for certain areas that you would like to see cats. But here in the Sabi Sands, we're spoilt. Unfortunately, we, like I say, can off-road and we have trackers, and also our cats here are generally quite habituated to the vehicles, and so a lot easier for us to spend long periods of time with them. But you can imagine if you were driving on the national parks, and in the national parks you can do about 30-40 kilometers on the tar road per hour, and you'll drive past and you would never spot this. This is perfect camouflage. It's only because we're sitting dead still that we can see it, but if I had to come past here at a quick pace with the camera, you probably would miss it as well. So alright, so we're going to still be a little bit more patient with this leopard and just see what it gets up to. I'm really hoping she's going to come down and drink, so while we wait and hope, we're going to go to Taylor on her bushwalk and see what she's got for us. Is fairly alert. She's still facing in that same southerly direction at the moment, so she's busy looking and checking around just to see if there's anything going on. And the light is really starting to dim now. It's starting to become quite gloomy out here, which will be perfect for her, and I'm sure that's what she's waiting for. She wants that gloomy dark light to come around so that she can then start to think about hunting. It looks like she's going to yawn, so those of you that want to get screenshots of her yawning, just wait. I saw those whiskers crunching up a little bit and I thought she might open her mouth, but seems like she's stopped and decided against it. So Zaid, who is a new viewer and you started watching today, well, Zaid, you've chosen a good day to start watching. It's been an incredible afternoon so far with Brent's elephants, and Taylor's been showing us so many different things, and then obviously this leopard has been incredible. But you want to know about the caterpillar and why it's got hairs on its body. Well, a lot of those hairs are there to try and deter predators, so a lot of the hairs are quite irritating. They have little hairs on them that will irritate the skin and the mouth of predators, and so it deters predators from eating them. Now, if you're a person and you get some of these caterpillars on you, you'll start to itch for days and it becomes very uncomfortable, and so that's where a lot of it is just to protect them and to make them not preyed upon by certain predators and birds. And it also makes them look a lot larger. There we go, there's the yawn we were talking about, but it makes them look a lot larger as well and more intimidating to any potential predator that they have. So this yawning is a sign that she's starting to think about getting up, and like I say, I'm hoping that she's going to come down this mound and make her way to the waterhole and have a really good drink. There's nothing better than watching a leopard drink at dusk. It's one of my favorite things. When they come down, you get these beautiful reflections, and then they lap that water up and they stare right at you. It's an amazing experience to watch. It's one of those things that really, really, really makes me happy. So I'm hoping that's what she's going to do. Is she sticking her tongue out? It looks like it. It looks like she's yawned and her tongue hasn't gone all the way in. So she's got her tongue slightly out. There we go. Isn't that sweet? So Lou's saying to me that her dogs do this at home, and I have cats and the cats do the same thing too, Lou. So I think it's a common trait of many of these animals. But she looks a little bit dopey now, doesn't she? With her tongue half out. Isn't that cool? So Rebecca, who's also in final control, is saying that the animals are thinking when they do that. Well, Rebecca, who is our resident animal whisperer, thank you for that insight. We have to delve deeper into it. We might have to get Rebecca on camera one day and ask her to explain this fully as to how that thinking process works. I would be quite intrigued to hear about it and to know what she thinks they're thinking about. Now, I'm quite intrigued to know who the actual father is of this leopard. I know that she comes from Thandi, but I would love to know who the father is, because she looks a lot like a male leopard we used to see in this area called Mvula. She's got that same big ears and very similar eyes. So I wonder if he's not the father for this leopard. It would be interesting to know, because he should have been born around the time where Mvula and both Tingana were still in this area. So I would like to know who is the one that mated with Thandi to produce this little cub. So Mario, no, she's not bigger than Karula. Karula's still a lot bigger. She is definitely bigger than Shongile, but not quite as big as Hosanna. So she's between Shongile and Hosanna, and you can see now with the grass how long this grass is. Look at how she's just melting away into the grass as she walks behind us. She's unfortunately heading the wrong way for a drink. Seems like she's quite interested in our vehicle at the moment. She's busy sniffing around the back here and is now going off and carrying on, but like I say, going the wrong way for a drink. So I wonder if she's not spotted something and she's now going to go and look around and see if she can position herself to start hunting. Hopefully that's the case. So we're going to try to stick with her a little bit. So I'm going to just turn, follow her and see where she's going to go and what she is going to get up to. We're going to go back to Brent and see where he is and what he's been doing.